Have you ever felt like you just wanted to see the world crumble? Like everything around you is so flawed, so absurd that maybe it'd just be easier for it to all fall apart. If so, you're not alone. This mindset can feel powerful, even liberating, but it's rooted in something much, much deeper. It's a kind of cynicism that philosophers like Nietzsche, Kierkegaard, and Camus understood as both a defense but also a trap. First, let's talk about cynicism. Why do so many of us feel such a pull towards it? Cynicism can feel like an armor, a shield against disappointment and suffering. If you convince yourself that life is meaningless, that people are selfish, and that society is well beyond repair, then nothing can disappoint you. You're then already prepared for the worst. This is a position Nietzsche would recognize as the pessimism of strength, where one sees through the facades of society not because they're weak, but because they believe in their own unfiltered perspectives. Nietzsche believed that this view had roots in what he called ressentiment, a kind of bitterness where people turn their frustrations inward or onto the world. They believe that if the world is cruel, then their own cruelty towards it is justified. But behind the harsh cynicism is often a profound vulnerability. Many of those who adopt the let it all burn mentality are in truth deeply, deeply hurt. They are people who have been let down by society, friends, or even themselves. In their pain, they cling to this cynicism as a way to feel superior to the disappointments around them. But is this shield effective, or does it deepen our despair? According to Soren Kierkegaard, the answer lays in our sense of self. Kierkegaard believed that despair is born when we cannot reconcile who we are with who we think we should be. He called this the sickness unto death, a sense of existential angst where one feels incomplete, frustrated, and just forever searching. This despair can feel bottomless, but instead of exploring it, many do turn to narcissism, clinging to an image of themselves as unique, misunderstood, and even beyond society's expectations. They imagine themselves as the lone wolves who see what others cannot. Kierkegaard might argue that this is actually a flight from self-awareness. Rather than confronting the truth of their pain, they protect themselves by elevating themselves above others and turning their pain into an identity itself. And here's where the philosopher Albert Camus becomes very, very crucial. Camus believed that life is inherently absurd, where the world just doesn't make any sense, and any attempt to find perfect meaning will lead to disappointment. For him, despair or nihilism was not the answer, though. Instead, he suggested embracing this absurdity with a sense of rebellion. The choice then is not whether life has any meaning, but how we respond to its absurdity. Camus argued that by choosing to live, by choosing to appreciate existence, even without inherent meaning, we defy despair. His message is that even if we can face the absurd without flinching, if we can say yes to life without needing to justify itself, we gain a freedom to create our own meaning. We are in essence liberated then. So where does this leave us? Cynicism, despair, even narcissism, they might feel like power, but they're ultimately traps. They're ways to protect ourselves, yes, but at the cost of our own growth. When we only see life's flaws, we do forget its beauty. We see ourselves as detached, we lose the richness of connection, and when we allow our despair to dictate our outlook, we end up drifting and never fully embracing life. To Camus, this world-crumbling cynicism leads to a belief that it would be better to not exist. This is where philosophies like antinatalism come in, the idea that bringing new life into a world is fundamentally cruel. It's a view that some philosophers have argued as compassionate, but it also represents a refusal to engage with life's absurdity. Rather than finding meaning, it chooses the easy way out to give up on meaning entirely. But what if, instead of turning away from life, we turn towards it? Nietzsche's idea of amor fati, to love one's fate, invites us to embrace everything about life, the good, the painful, the meaningless, as if we had chosen it. Nietzsche suggested that by doing this, we transcend cynicism. It's not about pretending that life is perfect or ignoring suffering. Rather, it's a commitment to live fully and to see life's imperfections as part of its mystery and beauty. And that's something that each of us can choose. Imagine replacing cynicism with enthusiasm, embracing Camus' rebellion, loving life not because it's easy or because it makes sense, but because it is ours. In this way, our cynicism can be transmuted into a deeper kind of wisdom, one that says yes to life in all of its contradictions. If you feel a pull towards despair, you can feel like you want to watch it all burn. Know this, that feeling is a reflection of your depth. But this is only a beginning, not an end. Instead of falling into cynicism, take Kierkegaard's challenge to explore who you are. Take Nietzsche's call to love your fate, and Camus' rebellion as an invitation to embrace life fully. To the young people out there that just feel powerless, powerless, frustrated, and lost in today's world, remember that your cynicism isn't your enemy. It's your sign of awareness. You see the cracks in the world, and that is your power. But instead of letting that awareness trap you, let it inspire you to build something better. Because while the world may be broken, it is still beautiful, and you have the power to choose what you make of it. Life may be absurd, but it's also worth saying yes to. We've talked about cynicism as a defense, as a way of coping with life's chaos. But here's the question. What happens when your cynicism becomes your default, when everything looks bleak and broken? Maybe you've noticed a voice in your head saying, "Why bother? What's the point?" Your voice can feel wise, like it knows some hidden truth. But is it really truth? Or is it just the fear of being let down again? Ask yourself, what would happen if you tried, if you put your whole self into something, knowing it might not work out? Kierkegaard would call this the leap of faith. Faith doesn't have to mean religious belief, it can come from faith in life itself. It's a trust in the possibilities that you cannot yet see. It's a choice to act with hope even in the face of uncertainty. And let's take it a step further. If you feel powerless in today's world, consider this. Where do you think the power actually comes from? Is it about controlling the world, bending it to your will? Or is there power in the willingness to face life's challenges with an open heart, to keep pushing you forward even when that path is not clear? Nietzsche famously wrote, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." So what's your why? If you could imagine one thing worth fighting for, worth struggling for, what would that be? It doesn't have to be grand or profound. Sometimes it really is just the small things. The people you love, a skill you want to master, a future you can almost see. What would happen if you dedicated yourself to that, to making that real? Camus posed one of philosophy's heaviest questions. Should we kill ourselves or embrace the absurdity of life? In his mind, facing the absurdity and yet choosing to live was an act of defiance, of strength. To him, it wasn't a problem to solve, but a mystery to live. So here's something to ponder. What if instead of asking, "What's the point?" you asked, "What can I make of this? What can I create in this life that's so uncertain, so unpredictable? What kind of person could I become if I embraced my struggles as a part of the journey rather than just as a sign of failure?" Imagine for a moment that everything you've gone through, all the disappointments, all the times you felt overlooked, powerless, and lost. Imagine that these experiences could fuel your future, that they could sharpen your sense of purpose rather than dull it. How would you live differently if you believed that every challenge could make you stronger and more resilient? This is what Nietzsche was referring to with the transformation coming from amor fati, a love of one's fate. He saw strength in learning to love everything that did happen to us, not because it was easy or pleasant, but because it made us who we were. He wanted to affirm life completely, to say yes to every part of it, even the suffering itself. So here's a question. Could you, even for a moment, imagine saying yes to your life just as it is? And Kierkegaard would challenge us further. He would ask, what does it mean to live authentically, to live in a way that's true to who you are? So many of us live according to what others expect or what we think we should be, while burying parts of ourselves that don't fit that mold. Kierkegaard believed that despair comes from not being true to ourselves, from living as mere reflections of other people's expectations. If you were completely free to be yourself, without fear, without judgment, who would you be? I invite you to consider these questions, not to find an easy right answer, but to explore what these ideas mean to you personally. What would it look like to live with that courage, to love your life, even in the face of uncertainty? How could you embrace hope, not as a blind optimism, but instead as a form of strength, the strength to move forward and then create your own meanings? It's easy to believe that the world can just be a place to withdraw from, but maybe it's a place to build, to create, to transform. And maybe that starts not with rejecting life, but with daring to live it fully. With all the ups, all the downs, cynicism can be comfortable. But what if true freedom lies on the other side of that, in choosing to engage with life in a way that's honest, passionate, and real? Take these questions with you and just let them sit for a while and see where they lead you. The world might seem like it's crumbling, but you have the power to build something worth striving for. That is your strength. Keep searching, keep questioning, and just keep going. Remember, cynicism comes from weakness, but true optimism comes from strength. Let me know what questions you've asked yourself to help transform your life, and subscribe if you want to continue these philosophical conversations. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one.